That will come back to it. But I want to put that in your mind. I want you to think about it. You recognize those. Those are in our garage. They've been in our garage for a long time. And they're falling apart. I don't know if you can tell, but the toe over there, see how, like, my toe comes out of there when I put those on. But there's something about them that I don't want to get rid of.
Pass those down to your kids.
Well, the problem is, Alex is a 13 and Grant's a 15, and I'm a 12. So that won't work. But think about something in your life. When we talk about what to get rid of in a moment, it's just hanging around. It's kind of like a jacket in the closet I have that I'll never wear again in my life. And I know I need to take it so somebody else can use it. But I think, there might be that day that I need it. I don't know why our minds work that way. All right, so I'm going to get rid of that because y'all probably tired of looking at it. We'll go back to that. Okay. Since we've been raised to the new life of Christ, we set our sights on the realities of heaven, where Christ sits in the place of honor at God's right hand. We think about the things of heaven, not the things of the earth. And we've got to remind ourselves, verse 3, that we died to this life. And the real life is hidden with Christ in God. And that's hard for me. Because, have you ever heard the phrase, in the world but not of the world? Well, if we're honest, we know what a battle that is sometimes. There's times we do it very easily, and there's times we struggle the whole way through it. But Paul is telling us here, since you've been raised to the new life, you need to set your eyes on heaven. You need to fix your mind on God and godly things. And you need to die to this life, because your life now is Christ. Just like Paul said, to live is Christ and to die is gain. Or in the NLT, he says, to live is Christ and to die is better. So we have to watch worldly attachment. We have to watch just how in love with the things that aren't going to last we become along the way. Because the struggle on the journey is found when we fall in love with things that don't last more than we're in love with Christ. That's that inner battle. That's that maturity that we hopefully get a little at a time along the way. I want to skip over and talk about something else real quick. We'll come back to the shoes because I know you all want to look at those shoes really closely. So, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the author Richard Foster. He kind of came on the scene really strong years and years ago when he wrote a book called Spiritual Disciplines. If you haven't read it and you like to read about things like the spiritual disciplines, it's a really great find. Christian simplicity frees us from the modern mania. The modern mania. It brings sanity to our compulsive extravagance and peace to our frantic spirit. So we've got modern mania going on in this, and we've got compulsive extravagance, and we've got frantic spirit. But then we've got Colossians 3 telling us, don't think about that stuff. It's supposed to be a distant part of you now. This is not an easy thing. This is like we all get together to do a rope climb or something. This is real. This is not the, let's walk around the parking lot one time together. This is the 40-foot rope climb. But we have Christ, so we can make it. It liberates us from what William Penn called cumber. It allows us to see material things for what they are. Goods to enhance life, not to oppress life. Now, what do you think he means by that? Material things are goods to enhance life, but not oppress life. How in the world would a material thing become oppressive?
You can't afford it.
Can't afford it. So that
You got too much of it.
too much of it? Yeah.
I mean, what other country has all of these storage places around? We have so much that we have to store on it. So much of it.
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of hit me on the storage share. No, seriously, that thing needs to be cleaned out. Katie's got way too much stuff in
See?
Yeah.
Yeah, the mentality is saying keeping no shoes.
Yeah. That's why that picture's up there. It's like, that's the tough part about preparing for a class. You get to get in the ring, get beat up before you come in here and share what you got beat up about.
Might need them again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sometimes you add to the maintenance of those things that you have. Beyond just the storage and purchase or the affordability, you have to do something, you have to dust them or polish them or do something to them. And that takes up your time, your life.
Yeah. And I know what you're thinking while you say that, so I'll say books and pens to you.
But yeah, that's not being
But yeah.
Taking care of enough.
But yeah. Okay, that's real. I want us to really get this, because this is exactly where Paul is taking us in chapter 3. Christian simplicity frees us from the modern mania. It brings sanity to our compulsive extravagance and peace to our frantic spirit. Do we have a frantic spirit at times? Are we freaking out over the things that we're not supposed to freak out over? And are we taking too lightly the things that God would have us freak out over? Like, should we be freaking out because somebody doesn't know Jesus? And we pass him 3 times a week? What should we be freaking out over?
Hey, Gary, I think we become too relaxed in today's society because we have so much that's thrown at us and we get so liberated in our thinking that we let these things overtake what a real nation should be.
Yeah. But in Christian simplicity, thank you, Jordan, people once again become more important than possessions. People once again become more important than possessions. Simplicity enables us to live lives of integrity in the face of the terrible realities of our global village. So all this stuff going on around us is not supposed to consume us. We can care. We can pray about it. We can do our part to lighten somebody's load. But like right now, are we spending more time talking about gas prices than we are people that we need to give something to eat? I don't know. I'm talking to me too, because this kind of hits me. The witness to simplicity is profoundly rooted in the biblical tradition and most perfectly exemplified in the life of Christ, which is what we're talking about in Colossians 3. In one form or another, all the devotional masters have stressed its essential nature. It is a natural and necessary outflow of the good news of the gospel having taken root in their lives. Remember a couple of weeks ago we showed the roots? And in chapter 2 where it says be deeply rooted in Christ. Well, when Jesus takes root in our lives like we all desire for him to, then all of this takes care of itself. I think that's very challenging for me, and I appreciate you letting me share it with you. Y'all heard him use margin this morning in the sermon lesson. Kind of using margin a little differently, but kind of similarly as well. The spiritual discipline of simplicity requires us to have margin in our lives. Now, in the business stuff that you read and all, it talks about margin. And it applies to us spiritually as well. And basically, think about a page where you just lay a piece of paper down and you start writing, and you write right off the edge of the page onto the table, and then you come back and do it again, and then you come back and do it again, you come back and do it again. You have no space. What does that kind of life feel like? Feels just like that table looks. So spiritual simplicity, I think, is essential. The reason I'm spending time on this is because I don't think until we understand the discipline of simplicity, we've got a chance at Colossians 3. The spiritual discipline of simplicity is to intentionally shed the things of this earth that are keeping you from fully experiencing the life God desires for you. That's what we're supposed to get up every day and try to do. Shed something else. And then later we'll talk about taking on the new things. But you can't take on the new things if you don't have margin for them. Because you're so cram-packed with the old stuff. So you got to decide, what am I going to leave alone so I have a little more room for that good thing I've been wanting to try? It's kind of like saying I'm going to exercise when I get time. I'm going to study when I get time. I'm going to pray. When I get more time, I'm going to pray more. All of those require us to say to ourselves, I'm going to develop a spiritual discipline of simplicity where I am going to set aside time for those things. And let some other stuff go. 2 Corinthians 1:12. For our boast is this, the testimony of our conscience, that we behaved in the world with simplicity and godly sincerity, not by by earthly wisdom, but by the grace of God, and supremely so toward you. And then we all know Matthew 6. Don't store up treasures here on earth in your shed, where moths eat them and rust destroys them. Have you ever got excited about something you forgot you had and you wanted to get it out because, oh, I love that thing? Whatever it is. And you get it out, something beats you to it. It's got little holes in it. It's got funk on it. I got a Harley jacket that I won't get rid of. I struggle with this stuff, so, you know. I've got a Harley jacket I won't get rid of because I think I paid too much for it. So the principle of that is I need to hold on to it. Because every day that goes by, if you see what you paid for it divided by the total number of days of possession, it's cheaper. But isn't it crazy how I will do that in my head? I know you don't. I pulled it out about 3 weeks ago. It had green stuff all over it. I don't even know what it is. It's not mold. It's like some moss fungus looking thing growing all over it. I'm like, wow. But it was so important that I haven't looked at it in over 1.5 years. So I had no idea it had this moss fungus thing growing all over it. But it's important that I keep it. Because the more days I go out, the cheaper it is. Don't store for yourselves here on earth where moths eat them and rust destroys them and where thieves break in and steal them. You ever had that happen? You ever had the thieves get something from you? How many people in here have been violated by theft? Store your treasures in heaven, where moths and rust cannot destroy and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. That's the key, isn't it? So simple, we blow by it sometimes. Wherever that treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also. Because you fixate on it. Like you said, you got to take care of it. Well, I've got it, I got to take care of it. Well, that requires maintenance. Well, you know, but then you get into that thing. I don't know if you've ever done this or not, but, well, there's a stewardship issue. I've got it. God must have wanted me to have it. Therefore, now I have to be a steward of it. So I have to spend time on it because that will be being a bad steward. That's just too much going on, isn't it? It is for me. All right. Think about the things that are excellent and worthy of praise. This is Philippians 4:4-8. Fix your thoughts on what is true, honorable, right, pure, lovely, admirable. Okay? I'll do that. I'm going to start that. So, think about those things. Get rid of the things. In Colossians, in verses 5-9 of chapter 3, when he's talking about the things to get rid of, there's 3 different categories there. You've got those sensual things. You've got those material things. Then you got some verbal things. So as I read that to you, verses 5-9, I want you to just listen along with me as I read that. Tell what I'm going to do. I'm going to read it here. Put to death the sinful, earthly things lurking within you. Have nothing to do with the sexual immorality, impurity, lust, and evil desires. Don't be greedy, because a greedy person is an idolater, worshiping the things of this world. That kind of stings. Because of these sins, the anger of God is coming. You used to do these things when your life was still a part of the world. So this new life in Christ thing is real. And so what I have to do is self-reflect and be honest with myself and realize that, quite frankly, to be honest, I'm not really doing verse 1 like it's written. And I'm not really pleased with that. So I need to work on that. Because I'm doing verse 1, but I'm keeping those shoes. Where'd they go? I still got those shoes in the garage. Those nasty, ugly, unglued, torn apart, ripped to shreds. I need to go on today and throw the shoes away. But I wonder what else I need to throw away. And here, I'm the jacket. I'll clean it up. But what in here do I need to throw away? I mean, studying Colossians is kind of beating me to death in a good way. Because it's just making me have to think about all the things that I, quite frankly, had made space for in my life that I never should have. So don't be greedy because you become an adulterer. Be greedy because you take God off the mantle and you put a picture of you on there. And the way it's supposed to work is God's supposed to be sitting on the mantle. God's supposed to be the 8 by 10, and we're supposed to be the little, like, pocket-sized cheap we used to get with church directors, you know. So if it's the other way around, switch it out. Get it back right. Because joy and peace and all that stuff depends on it. There's no way we can have any of that good stuff that we talked about in chapter 2 if we don't get the mantle right. If we don't get rid of those shoes or whatever else those shoes might represent in other ways. Okay? You used to do these things. That just bugs me when I read verse 7. You used to do these things. I still do some of those things. I want to say I used to do all those things. That needs to be a spiritual goal. But now's the time to get rid of anger, rage, malicious behavior, slander, and dirty language. The best way to practice verse 8 is get up and get in your car between 7 and 8 and drive somewhere. Because that's where you'll see if verse 8 is an issue or not. Can I share your thing? Don't you love that? Kathy called me in work the other day. She was on her way to work. She calls me and she says, I don't know what to do. There's a lady that is following me and has tried to rub up against me already on the way to work. And it's just, I guess she shot you every finger, not just a bird, right? And yelling and all this stuff. I said, well, I'm at O'Reilly's. Getting an auto part for a vehicle, I probably don't need parking, so. But I said, just come over here. Because she didn't want to pull in work, because then she didn't know what she had. She didn't know if she had a lady that was just having a moment, but that's a classic example of anger, rage, malicious behavior, slander, and dirty language all wrapped up in one little thing. It's like you got the full gift basket. I'd like to say I never get frustrated when somebody decides they're going to change 3 lanes in front of me, and they see no need to give me consideration. The first thing I do is pray for them. Verse 9, isn't it interesting right after I said that? Don't lie to each other. For you have stripped off your old sinful nature and all its wicked deeds. We're going to stop there. The clock's going to get us. We'll pick up next week with what to start being, what to take on, what to be more like. And then 12 through 17 is going to be about how we treat each other. So we'll get both of those kind of worked in. How we treat each other is vital. Quick story on why that's important, just to set the stage for that discussion. Several years ago, and we all do this to each other, that's why there's got to be forgiveness, grace, and mercy, and all that stuff. But several years ago, we were going to a movie. And it was one of those deals where this was back when everybody wanted to see the movie, you know. And the parking lot was packed, and I already went around 4 or 5 times, and there it was. The couple backing out. And they were going to back out my way so that I could get it. We've been sitting there waiting on it. Well, the swoop couple, that might be their name, I don't know. The swoop couple came around real quick and swooped. And it was the unkindly swoop. We got out of the car. Thankfully in the mindset of, let Christ live in you. And they got out of the car. And they were in my class. It wasn't you. But and I wasn't hung up on what they did. Thankfully, the first thing that hit me is, I'm so glad I took it right. And we ended up all laughing it off. You know, like, oh, ain't like crazy grand, yeah, it's all right. Let's have a big day. How we treat each other. So, let's pray. Father, thank you for the time we had this morning. Thank you for everyone being here. Thank you for the comments during class. Thank you that we can come together and study the in-depth parts of your words, and we can also laugh together as we do that. Thank you that we can go out of here with a little bit of a better understanding of how we want to live it out this week. Help us to use our week as a practice field to do that. Father, help us to set a goal to work on 1 or 2 things that we learned today. And help us to do that and get a step closer to what you would have us to be. Help us to live within the margins. Help us to make time for you.